Well, good day, everyone. And I am joined by the governor of the volunteer state of Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee. Good morning, Governor.
How you doing, Steve? Everything good today?
Hey, we're doing great, and I do appreciate you joining us here. I know it's extremely busy there for you in Nashville. But I tell you, before we talk about the issues of the day, I want to obviously bring up what happened at Antioch High School yesterday. I know you put out a statement about this yesterday evening.
Yeah, it just breaks your heart. Kid being losing their life in school in such tragic circumstances, and there's a lot that we don't know yet, and it's really still under investigation. But there's one thing we do know: heartache and the devastation that is to a family, and we need to pray for and support them. And people dismiss that sometimes as not being valuable, but not me. When the community surrounds them and we pray for them, that's hugely helpful. And then the responses that are necessary will take place. And law enforcement did a great job. And there will always be the need to look at what happened, see what we can do better. We've made huge investments in public school safety and private school safety, for that matter, across this state with SROs and school safety grant funds and mental health supports. But we will continuously be looking at how we can do that better.
We are joined by the governor of Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee. And, Governor, you've called a special session of the legislature on Monday. And, you've outlined three parts of this. Obviously, there's the Hurricane Helene funding. There's illegal immigration. I do want to hit on those, but I want to begin, though, by the one, obviously, is getting the most conversation, and that's the Education Freedom Act. And so I want to give you what we are hearing from school leaders here in Cleveland and Bradley County. Both of the Bradley County and Cleveland City school boards have passed resolutions opposing this. The Bradley County Commission has now passed a resolution opposing this. Both of our school directors have come on this station and opposed this. Their concern is they're concerned about, basically funding being taken from public education and moved over to private. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, if they're paying attention, they know that's not true. Just straight up and down, the amount of misinformation and the efforts to keep the status quo and to not make change and to not be innovative and to not give parents freedom to choose their own child's path, but have the government make those decisions for them. That the interest in keeping that the same is powerful. But anyone who's actually looked at this legislation and read the bill and understood that, and more importantly, understood me and watched what I've done for the past 6 years for public education, anyone who actually looks at that truthfully would not truthfully imply that this is going to take away funds from public schools. Number one, the legislation guarantees that no public school in the state of Tennessee will lose any funding as a result of disenrollment for any reason. As it relates to this piece of, as it relates to school freedom, the Education Freedom Act, no school will lose funding. Number two, the legislation actually provides for increased facilities funding for public schools across Tennessee. The budget for the state of Tennessee this year will once again, for the sixth year, propose an increase in funding for public schools across our state. And by the way, if you look at the funding that's gone into place since I came into office, it's historic. We put $1 billion into our funding formula just a few years ago, by far the largest amount that's ever been put in public school funding. We've raised teacher pay for public school teachers to a level that will be the 10th in the top 10 states in the country for teacher pay in the next 2 years. Anyone who suggests that giving parents freedom and an opportunity to choose for their child has to come at the expense of the public schools is someone who is not being intellectually honest with their evaluation of this, or is someone who actually hasn't taken the time to see what we're doing.
We're joined by the governor of the state of Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee, and of course we're talking about the special session which you have called for Monday. And part of what we hear, especially from our leaders of education here locally in public education, is they want to know where's the accountability. What they say is, hey, the public education, the testing, the scores, all of that sort of thing, and they're asking, well, where is it going to be for private education?
Well, once again, I would encourage people to look at this piece of legislation and actually see what's in it, because what's in it is a requirement for every child in a public school, in a private school, who accesses a scholarship to attend that private school will be required to take nationally norm reference tests and to report those testing results as a school to the state of Tennessee. Not the individual test results of a child, but the test results of the children in that school that are in a scholarship program. So there's accountability, there's testing requirement, there are limitations on what monies can be spent. Only schools that qualify and are accredited will be allowed to be a part of the program. Here's the thing. I'm a person who understands. I'm an engineer. I look at data. I understand and try to evaluate things based on factual information. The states that have implemented this, and there have been many so far in this country, and there'll be more and more because President Trump, for example, is very focused and very supportive of this effort. He and I talked about it when I was with him in Mar-a-Lago just 2 weeks ago, how important it is that we get this done in Tennessee. But what you understand if you look at the data is that when a school implements a school choice program, the vast majority of parents choose a public school. And we're glad that they do, and we want them to. We want our public schools to be the best in the country. We want our public schools to be funded and supported, and we want them to be the choice of parents. And 90% of kids, 5 years from now, if you pass this next week and this goes into effect 5 years from now, 90%, likely more than 90% of our children will be in public schools. It would be very short-sighted to do anything after all the investments we've made in public schools. It'd be very short-sighted to do anything that would take away from an investment in public school. Actually, what happens is you find that when parents have choices, the entire system improves as it works to be the choice of the parents. Take Florida, for example, who's had school choice for over a decade. And by the way, they have the third best public school outcomes in America. And don't we wish we had the third best public school outcomes in America? And in large part, it's because of the innovation that has been introduced into their entire school system, including their public schools, which are great and funded in the same way that our state's public schools are funded. That's kind of what we know happens when you look at the data. And we should have the best public schools and give parents choice at the same time, and we can do that. I think we're going to be able to do it.
Governor Lee, we've got about a minute left, and I know you put the special session also includes illegal immigration, which is also a very hot topic. I know it's very hard to cover in about 1 minute, but what could you tell us about that part of it?
Yeah, I can cover it in 1 minute. When I say President Trump was real clear about what he thought was important for the country: stop illegal immigration, secure the border, and take the violent criminal offenders that are not citizens back to the countries they came from. That's his strategy. And as I said, I met with him a couple of weeks ago in an effort for states to work together with the federal government. We said we will be ready for you to implement that strategy. The vast majority of Americans want that. The vast majority of Tennesseans do. We want to be ready. We're simply putting in place the authorization to create an office, to create someone to head that office up, and to coordinate our efforts with President Trump and the federal officials.
Governor Bill Lee, Governor, I really appreciate the time today, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Be on again soon.
Thank you, sir. Governor Bill Lee, everybody.